Alright everybody, this is video 17. This is my final video on my 98 Grand Cherokee 4.0 rebuild. Last video I had my Jeep dying out on me and I couldn't figure it out. So I replaced the fuel pump, which was black when I emptied it out, but that didn't take care of my issue. I still had it dying sporadically, and it seemed to be worse in warmer weather. And I'm going to let you in on my little secret on that. It was kind of surprising to me, but it took me a while to figure it out. But once I did, this thing has been running awesome. Anyway, I'm going to call out, there's a website out there called dyingjeep.com. And they claim to have a solution to fixing your problem if you have sputtering, hesitation, dying, misfiring, backfiring, yada yada yada. The problem is they don't give you any information on YouTube, and if you go onto their website, in order to get this information that I'm about to share with you, they're charging you 20 freaking bucks for it. A bunch of freaking ripoffs. So I'm sorry, trying to make a buck off of the American public, especially in this time, in this day and age, screw that crap. So I'm going to show you what they did, and I'll tell you right now, I tried it, and I've seen other guys talk about it. I'm going to do one step further. And I'm not going to charge you guys for it, because you know what? It's just, this is the common problem with these things. They're electrically horrible. And I'm going to teach you what I've done. And it does go one step further than anybody else that I've ever seen take care of their ECMs and zip tying it like you see back there. So first off, always disconnect your negative battery terminal, okay? Don't want power going to the ECM while you're working on it. Disconnect it. Coolant reservoir, unbolt it, lift it up, put it out of the way. You don't have to undo any hoses, just pick it up, put it out of the way. Then, undo your 3 plugs on your ECM. Typical, simple. Once those are out of the way, you got 1 bolt over here and 2 on the left side. Undo those, take your ECM out. When your ECM is out, take the plugs, flip them around, spray some electrical contact cleaner down into the pins, the pinholes. Make sure there's no debris in it. Just make sure that there's no crap down in it, and it's going to make a clean contact when you put this back together. Once your ECM is out, do the same thing. Spray your terminals, your pins, with electrical contact cleaner. Now, what dyingjeep.com tells you to do is disconnect the battery terminal, like I said, move this out of the way, undo your plugs, take your ECM out, and then there's 2 screws, not on all of them, but on certain years. There's one here and there's one on the left. You'll see it right underneath these plugs. Kind of hard to see. It's kind of right there. They tell you to put washers underneath it, and the reason being is that it will back off your screws that go into this computer, and they say that these screws short out your circuit board in here. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've been doing electronics and all sorts of crazy stuff for years. I work with machines and stuff, and I'll tell you right now, guys, it is a load of crap. Don't bother touching those screws. You don't have to. Unless you plan on taking your ECM apart, if you know for a fact that you've got blown capacitors, don't even try it. Just do this first. Give it a test. If this works, great. If it doesn't, then consider taking your ECM down if you know how to do it and working on it. So, don't worry about touching the screws. It's a load of crap. You don't have to touch them. They don't assemble this crap knowing that there's going to be an issue with it. So, here's my tip. You have little tiny pins coming out of the computer. I mean, hundreds of them, literally. What you want to do is, right now they stick out straight. What you want to do is take them and bend them up at an angle. And the reason why you want to do that is so when your plug goes over those pins, it is going to make contact with the very top of the pin. Like my fingernail, make that the top of the pin. It'll make contact with the top of that pin. You don't want to put an extreme angle on them because you don't want to bust your pins. They're real small. Just put a slight angle on them, okay? The reason being you do that, like I said, makes contact with the pin itself going into the plug. When you go to put the plug back on, the sheer weight of the plug will pull down on it. Now it's going to make a really good contact with that pin. All they're trying to tell you to do is put dielectric grease onto the plug. Do it. Okay? Put it on the plug, not on the pins. Put it on the plug and make sure you get grease down in every single pinhole. Then wipe off any excess grease, okay? Because you don't want the grease acting as a conductor from one pin to the next, because that will actually cause your computer to act funky as well, or your engine. So, take the pins, clean them, bend them at a slight angle, like, I don't know, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, maximum. And I take this now, and I will say this now, I don't take any blame for you guys busting your pins, because I didn't bust mine. So you got to be careful doing it. So if you bust yours, don't come pointing fingers at me, because I'm telling you right now. Then put dielectric grease on the plugs, plug them back in. Now you see I have zip ties on it. This dyingjeep.com tells you to do this. And what this does is once you put your plugs on, put the zip ties on, it pulls your plugs super tight into your ECM, okay? That's all there is to it. That's all they're telling you to do. And so they're charging you $20 for that freaking ripoff. Pisses me off that someone would actually do that. So, disconnect, move out of the way, unplug, take your bolts out, take the ECM, clean it, take your plugs, clean them, put dielectric grease on the plug faces, make sure there's no excess grease on it, wipe it off, take your pins, bend them at a slight angle upwards, 5 to 10 degrees, then put it back together after you bolted it in, and then plug it in, zip tie them tight, make sure you pull those plugs all the way in, and that should take care of that. Now if you have a problem with it still hesitating and sputtering, then you probably have an issue with your ECM, okay? But it's a quick little trick to do, and it actually works. It worked on mine because I did have a faulty plug on the far right. I had two actually connectors that were causing this thing to die out, sputter, misfire, backfire, everything. So once I took care of that, I still had an issue. It would fire up, it would run for 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes it would start to bog out, and it would bog out for 2 minutes. So for 4 minutes running, at the last 2 minutes of it would bog out, and after the 4 minutes was up, it would kind of go back to running okay. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I had no check engine codes except for my O2 sensor number 2, which does not have an effect on how it makes the engine run. So I know that for a fact. I was absolutely just mind blown. I thought I had a bad wire somewhere, and after I jumped on a website, it's called jeepforum.com, came across a couple guys that had, and it's a rare issue that I had. I came across a couple guys that had the same problem, and I read through all their posts, and it turns out that it was my up bank sensor. So it's O2 sensor number 1, which is right below the exhaust manifold on this. And what's going on with it is my ECM was shorted out. It was no good. That's why I got a new one. What was happening is after you'd fire it up, the first 2 minutes, the computer is letting the idle air control valve wide open, just run. When your temperature gets to a certain degree, your computer recognizes it. It goes, okay, now it's at a certain temperature. Let's see what the O2 sensor is reading. O2 sensor wasn't reading properly. Because it wasn't reading properly, it wasn't sending a signal to the computer. The computer recognized that and goes, oh, okay, well, it's not hot enough. Let's dump more fuel into this, make this thing run so it can get up to temperature. So it would shut down this, turn on this, open this, do this and that. Totally messed with my fuel to air and fuel ratio. Everything. I swapped out the O2 sensor. Actually, all I did was unplug it and started it up, let it run for about 10 minutes. I didn't have any bogging issues, so therefore I knew that my O2 sensor upstream was no good. Now, here's the kicker. I didn't have a code for sensor number 1. All it did was just bog out, sometimes die, whatever. It just ran like crap. It hesitated to coming off the line. It sputtered, and So the next day I went to the auto store, picked up a new O2 sensor, popped it in, reset the computer again by disconnecting the negative battery terminal, and fired it up. And I drove it around, let the computer relearn how to drive it, because you have to every time you reset it. And I've been driving it around for, I don't know, about a week, almost a week, and I haven't had a lick of problems. Just real weird, odd problems. But like I said, make sure you go across everything. Even if you don't have a code for a sensor, like I did, it can still be bad. So make sure, if you've got an issue, after you check your ECM connectors and the ECM, and after resetting it, make sure that you go and check your sensors and then drive it and see what happens. A lot of headache, but I learned a lot just from doing this. And, you know, it's been a good learning curve. This is my first Jeep I've ever owned. I've owned it for a year. And I've rebuilt the motor completely now, and I've done electrical system in the engine bay. And to tell you the truth, I'm happier now than I have been since I bought it a year ago. I love it. And hopefully, if you guys are having any issues, I can, these videos are helping you out. And like I said, just make sure all your ground connectors are clean. These things are really electrically touchy, but make sure your ECM back there has good connection to the plugs. Make sure the contacts are clean. Bend the pins up a little bit. Put some dielectric grease on it. Zip tie them, and then see how it goes from there. But if you still have an issue, then you probably have something else going on. So make sure you just test everything, like I did. That was my issue. Since I've done it, Jeep's been running great. Love it. And thank you guys for watching all these videos. This is going to be my final video. This is my final update for everything that I've done so far. And hopefully this will help you guys out if you're having issues electrically, engine-wise, whatever. And any comments, shoot them. Any questions, shoot them. I answer. So thank you guys for viewing.